Barb. Serena.
She ready?
She ready? Okay, no, I'll call you. I'll call you as well. I'm with OPS, yeah. Justin, here's Steph. Yeah, I'm just helping. All right, guys, I'm gonna reach out to the staff for the pictures. To my knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
So I can go.
No, I don't have anything.
I'm not aware.
Let me give you a couple of, okay.
Good evening and welcome to the Cleveland Community Police Commission meeting for Wednesday, November 19th, 2025. We're at our 3631 Perkins Avenue location, and we will call this meeting to order. We're going to start with the roll call attendance. Co-Chair Adams,
Present.
Commissioner Chura,
Present.
Commissioner Coleman is absent, Commissioner Kincaid is absent, Commissioner Mason,
Here.
Commissioner Miller,
Present.
Commissioner Morera Benito,
Present.
Commissioner Nelson,
Present.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Present.
Commissioner Emerson,
Here.
Commissioner Van Leer will be late. And I am present, thank you. We're gonna move forward to adoption of the agenda. Please review the agenda.
The motion to order, Madam Chairperson.
Is there a second to adopt the agenda?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion or debate about the agenda? Okay, all in favor of adopting the agenda? Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, so that passes. We've adopted the agenda. We're gonna move forward with the meeting decorum. Please review the decorum on the, I'll read that statement. This meeting of the Cleveland Community Police Commission is a lawful meeting. Under section 605.04 of the codified ordinance, no person with purpose to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting shall do any act which obstructs or disrupts a lawful, or interferes with the due conduct of such meeting. Or any other gathering. Members of the public and the commission are invited to speak only under the rules set by the commission. Speaking out of turn is in violation of the rules of this commission, I'm sorry, this is not the correct one. Yeah, this is not the correct, I'll start over with the correct, disturbance, statement. This meeting of the Cleveland Community Police Commission is a lawful meeting. Under section 605.04 of the codified ordinance, no person with purpose to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting shall do any act which obstructs or interferes with the due conduct of such meeting. Members of the public are invited to speak in accordance with the public comment rules. Disruptions, including but not limited to speaking out of turn and or making loud utterances that interfere with the due conduct of this lawful meeting, may constitute as a misdemeanor and a violation of section 605.04. If the meeting is disrupted, I will call for a recess and the room will be cleared. Persons who violate the city ordinance and commit misdemeanors may be subject to prosecution. When this body is able to return from recess, then in compliance with the Ohio Open Meetings Act and section 101.021 of the codified ordinance, the meeting will become open to the public again. Okay, so we're gonna move, do we have the meeting minutes for October? Okay, so we do not have the meeting minutes completed for the month of October, so we'll move forward and past that, and we'll look at those hopefully in December. We're gonna move forward to the next item on our agenda, and that is our public comment section. Can you pass that down? First up is Dale Snyder.
It's from here, fine. Okay. Hello, Police Commission, CPC. Good to see you once again. I want to speak on the aspect of the grant. Yes, I'm a grantee with RoGo Inc., and this process has been long and tedious, as you all know. Understand that there's been a change in personnel. Some removed, some resigned. I don't want to get into the details because I don't know the details. In fact, I'll just offer to be proactive. I would like to volunteer myself to be a help in whatever capacity that I may be able to in order to forward this process. I have skill sets that I can just give in order to forward this. I have my own computers, I have my own printers, I have my own mind, sound at that. I understand that you are the grant committee chair or whatever. Just found that out not too long ago. But if I could just have a conversation, what do we need to do to get the grantees ball moving? Understand that there's processes, understand as it goes to the law department. I've been in contact with the law department down to City Hall, and it just seems like there's a lot of miscommunications, to say the least. So with that being said, on behalf of RoGo Inc. and myself, again, I want to publicly say volunteer in order to move the ball forward, not just for our nonprofit, but for all the nonprofits that have been invested in this grant for over some time now, some going on 2 years. So with that being said, thank you.
Thank you.
Next public comment, Terry Wong.
Yeah.
Oh,
Move a little. There you go. You're good.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm former Commissioner Terry Wong. I do want to first say that for Sharina Zayed and the Commission to keep reading a statement that is a mashup of public comment rules and the existing ordinance is not ethical. There is no crime in speaking out. There is no crime in even uttering out. The U.S. Supreme Court has established rules for what actual disturbance is. And what the commission is doing is criminalizing dissent. And that is what they've done to me in the press. And that is what they've done to other people in order to chill First Amendment rights of the people to dissent against the commission. I don't think, Mr. Snyder, that you can be involved if you are directly a financial recipient, but you can, ask a lawyer that's probably not from the law department. And the grants were also given unlawfully because they were decided outside of public view. You're a commission that has to obey the Open Meetings Act, and the money, 10% of the grant money that came from either federal taxpayers or local taxpayers, 10% was given to the United Black Fund to do the work for you because you are all not doing the work. Now I'm coming to talk about what the community is concerned about right now, which is the Flock safety contract. Flock is a company that that I believe the city has already engaged in for automatic license plate readers. And the problem is that policy never went through the commission. I confirmed this with former Commissioner Ridgway and with former Commissioner Donaldson. So this was the responsibility of Pete Van Leer, the policy head. We never approved a policy unless I'm wrong, I don't remember approving a policy, especially when I look at the existing policy that the city has for these readers, and it's 1 page long and it contains multiple typos, which under my watch would never have happened. And the problem right now is these Flock readers are not just license plate readers. You could input a license plate and you can call up any picture or image of that car anywhere in the city. So that is continuous surveillance, probably a Fourth Amendment violation. It has already gone to the courts, and Flock is giving information to ICE. But the problem is that you as a commission, and Mr. Van Leer in particular, has failed in his duty to provide civilian oversight in accordance with the consent decree and Charter 155. And I believe in terms of Mr. Van Leer's actions, that this is intentional because he has worked directly with the city to allow the warrantless surveillance of protesters. He has taken out the data protections that I and others put into the existing ShotSpotter policy. You need to remove him right now. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the co-chair report given by co-chair Adams.
Good evening, everyone. There's a few items we need to discuss. I'll just go down the list. I mean, we all are aware that we're currently functioning with one staff member, including your executive director. So the first item I would like to discuss is the executive director's search update. So what has happened is that we have sent a letter over to the mayor requesting the appointment of our nominee, Shelley Williams. Currently, we have not gotten a response. The only correspondence we've had so far is just confirmation of the receipt of the letter. In the letter, we have requested that the mayor would meet with Ms. Williams and also with the co-chairs. So we haven't had any response yet. So we were just told that the mayor would review and then he would get back to us. So I just want to I know there was some discussion about our steps, our next steps. So on this matter, I know that there were some concerns or thoughts from commissioners. So I wanted to just basically stop there because that really is the update that we have, and to open up for comments or questions, concerns from the commissioners.
Dr. Adams,
Just Nelson.
yeah, to the co-chairs, do we have a plan, and I'll put it in my correspondence, of identifying, of a process that should the person that we advance not get the approval of the mayor, of identifying a possible interim. There are a number of people out here who have significant experience as retired judges and a number of retired professors who may be good candidates. I don't have any particular candidate in mind, but should this be there not accept that, we have to re-enter the search process. If I would suggest that those involved in search and leadership think about a process of identifying a interim someone who would not be interested in a permanent job in case we have that void to fill. And I'm saying that because I want to really avoid what happened last year or while we were being on board, so that we have an idea of somebody could run the show while the search convenes. And I'm not suggesting that the current person is not going to receive the approval, but just in case.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Benito.
I appreciate Commissioner Nelson, wanting to think about potential Plan Bs and Plan Cs. I think that's a wise thing to do. In my opinion, what we should do if our nomination is not accepted, I think that one, we would probably need to engage outside counsel to ask the question of what responsibility does the mayor have to accept our nomination. There's been some question about that in the past, and especially because the mayor did specifically name in their letter to us when he did not accept our first nomination that his concern was the process. And so I believe we have addressed those concerns with our process. So if we did not get that, if he did not agree to it, then I think that we would need to have some outside counsel. But beyond that, I would think that we would then go down the list of finalists that we had and make other offers and make decisions based on those, because there were still other strong candidates that we did not make a final offer to. So I think that we would move down that list, and I'm guessing we would discuss that and then vote on that as a commission. If the mayor still did not choose or one of those candidates did not accept, I think at that point I would caution us against bringing in an interim, because in the past 2 interims we had, one was the already current executive director, or the executive director who had been in place before the charter amendment passed, and the other one was a member of staff already who was involved in the day-to-day functioning of the office. To me, especially with, only one staff member, shout out to our staff member that's working really hard, Jocelyn, but it would take a significant amount of work from us to interview, bring on, hire, bring on, train an interim, and I believe that time would be better spent doing a push to hire a permanent. I don't think that if we had someone in the wings that was easily able to be put in, then I would say that that's not a bad idea, but I think at this point, we just have to go full throttle on getting that position hired, but I would consider that to be about a plan C. And hopefully plan A, we're able to move forward with, and the mayor accepts our nomination.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Miller.
So it all depends on what the reason is that the mayor is not moving forward. Did he say he was not accepting our nomination?
No.
Okay.
No, we haven't heard anything yet.
We
So I
haven't
think we're
heard
just like,
anything.
there's a lot, the mayor's a lot going on with schools, and particularly right now, they announced what they're doing with the schools. I know there's been a lot of meetings that he's been attending all over the city, so at this point, I think he's had this for about a week, so we're just trying to be patient. Just because we haven't heard anything either way, so we don't want to assume that he's going to do one or the other, so we're just waiting.
That's not what's
Anyone else? I would just also let the commissioners know that we had a group of 9 people, and there are still people in that pool of 9 that are qualified for the position. So I would just urge us to maybe give it a little bit of time. I know that we would prefer it to be sooner rather than later. But, he has to make his decision, so we also have to give him the time to make that decision. So I don't know how everyone else feels about it. That's kind of how I see it. So, all right. Sounds like, has everyone said their piece on that? Okay. But of course, whenever we hear anything, we'll share it out. The other item to just make everyone aware is that we will be in this office for another year. I think that that one of the things that I would hope that when we do get a permanent interim, I think we do need to look for another office space. But the way that everything sort of developed, that process has to happen a lot sooner than I think we were initiating it. So we will be here. So we signed the lease for this upcoming year, and I think that should be an item that, amongst other things, there'll be a lot of things for the permanent interim to address, but I think that's one of them too, that we probably need to look into a different space.
Your contract?
Yeah, I think it goes until like October, November or something. So we should look earlier. And then also just an update. So earlier, I think it was the summer, we put forth legislation. It was basically supported by, I believe, the finance department, and the legislation was for the authority for our subpoena powers.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on, can we go back to the lease?
Sure.
I don't know if you were prepared to take questions.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
What is what type of lease do we have? Triple net? What kind of lease do we have?
I'm not familiar with that.
Who negotiated the lease?
It
The
was
lease renewal.
it was done by Alex, our former interim, before he left.
And was there, since I've never seen the lease, was there a date certain that we had to renew by, or did the lease automatically renew if we did not indicate, or make an indication of whether we wish to renew it or not? Automatic renewal.
My understanding is that it would not have automatically renewed.
How did it get renewed? Was there I don't know if the commissioners are part of that, but how did that occur? Just tell us
Usually,
all.
commissioners are not involved with that. Usually, that is the that is a responsibility of the executive director. But Alex had basically done all of the work for the lease. It just needs to be signed.
You just made a statement that we need to look for a new space. So was that in conjunction with Alex, or is that, I don't disagree, but how was that arrived at? Because you did make a specific statement that we need to look for a new
I
space.
said that's my opinion. Everyone may not agree with that.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion
Okay,
as one
so-
commissioner, but
Okay.
it's been a discussion it's been something we've been trying to do since we got on the commission.
All right, so the decision was made exclusively by the executive director without any consult with any of the commissioners or the senior leadership of the commission.
I mean, I think we were given updates, but we weren't necessarily involved in that conversation. That's the duty of the executive director.
And when was the lease signed? The extension?
A couple of weeks ago.
Now, Alex has been gone more than a couple of weeks.
Right.
So how did Alex negotiate it? Did he negotiate that before he left? I'm just trying to figure out how, who signed it, how was it signed?
Everything but his signature was completed before he left.
I've never been involved in such a process before. It's new to me, this type of process. Usually someone informs the commission or the board regarding the status of the lease. There's usually a committee that's involved in looking and consulting a real estate broker so that we have options to consider. That did not happen in this case. If you don't know, then it's all right. But that didn't happen.
Again, that is the duty of the executive director. I was contacted by finance that if we wanted to ensure that we had an office space, that lease needed to be signed by a certain date. So, like I said, everything was done but the signature. There's been working with I can't remember. I think his name is Mikhail Jean Baptiste down in one of the city departments. I can't remember the name of the city department, but I was contacted by them that's saying that if we didn't sign the lease, that we just wouldn't have an office space.
Yeah, the building department
Yeah.
usually negotiates the terms and conditions of the lease.
So your statement your suggestion that we need to look for additional space, how would that, suppose we all agree with you, how would that process be initiated? Will we talk to the real estate department of the city, or will we identify someone to go look for some space? What was the previous plan that process?
It's usually something that the commissioners are not involved with. It's usually something that goes with the executive director usually handles that. Like,
Yeah, the building department and the executive director.
And they work with finance and they work with the other department, the building department in the city. So
Okay.
as far as I know, I don't know if Adriana and Jan were involved with it when they were co-chairs, but I know that we weren't involved with it last year, and I don't know if they were their first year with the building. Were you guys involved with that?
So no, we already had the lease, and so the first year, and then it was like an emergency ordinance because there was a lot of things transpiring, but that was city council that did it. So there has been some discussions about moving, but there has nothing been formalized, especially under like my tenure, because I'm gonna be very true, there was a variety of things going on that was transpiring, so that never officially.
All right, Mr. Chairman.
So hold on.
Then I'll yield. Well, I'm still just framing the question, then I'll yield. Suppose we decide as a group, we don't want this space anymore, and we would like to have new space. How does that process occur? Suppose we as a commission say, hey, the hell with this spot, we don't like it, it's raggedy, the blinds are falling apart, nobody's taking care of it, we don't even know what kind of lease we have. How will we initiate that?
Commissioner Benito?
So I think to your question that you're asking about, was there a consideration of the moving spaces? I can say that since we've been on the commission, there was always kind of a conversation in the background about could we have a improvement in our office space. And so I think that conversation has already kind of been considered, But I think that to Commissioner Rodriguez's point, it was always kind of didn't ever make it to the top of the list of priorities. So I don't think that it was ever something that was considered urgent enough to supersede the signing or the negotiating of the current lease. So, I mean, I think that we are, obviously, those are questions about what process would the executive director have to go through in order to secure a new building. Is not something that any of us would necessarily have a lot of expertise on, but I can tell you that my guess is that they would talk to the building department. Do you have some, can I?
I was making sure that people were listening to talk.
Yeah, that they would talk to the building department. They would need to find out probably the rules and regulations about what our kind of budget has, the process that the city needs to, the approval process that the city needs to accept. And then we would probably find out whether there are people in the city that would handle identifying locations, or if we would work with the broker. But I also feel like we're putting the cart in front of the horse right now because we don't have an executive director. And I think that this is an issue that will be tabled until we have an executive director, and the executive director gets a sense of how the space works, and if they think that the space works for the purposes, and then if they have a better idea, then we could revisit the conversation. But I think that this is a little bit of an unnecessary conversation.
Commissioner Relevant.
Through the chair, to get this moving forward, will we just vote on it as a whole commission and maybe take it to budgets and grants to see if we have the money allocated for a new building, or how that would go, and then go to the building? He want to know how to start this process.
So I think for just the money was in our budget. So if you look in the line items of our budget, there is a line item that's specifically for paying for our office space. So the money was already, set aside for this particular purpose. So the funds were already there. I think that if this is something that commissioners are passionate about, then you can always create some type of work group, or if a commissioner just is interested in it, I don't think there's anything preventing a commissioner from taking leadership on searching for a better office space. I do recall that in previous conversations with interim executive directors, there were some things that they were looking for with the new office space. One of which is that this space, it may seem small, but it's easy access for the public. There's free parking, and well, that's one of the reasons why we're looking. So I know that they were looking at that. There was also an issue of how much of our budget do we commit to the office space. And as they were looking into different office spaces, they said that what I recall is that they cost a lot more than what we were paying for this space. So I just think that, but I know that there was searches done into different spaces, but that the interim executive director felt that the spaces were not conducive to what we needed for particularly the public to have access to the space. So that's all the information that I have on that. But I don't think there's anything that would stop a commissioner from starting to look and help with that.
To the chair and to Ms. Benito, we are not empty suits sitting in this room. I'm a former judge. We have a chief of police. We have a young lady who has a major position in Tri-C. We're not empty suits. And if we as commissioners say we want a different place, or at least a consideration of a different place, we as commissioners can do that. And your statement that this is not a priority, to me it's a priority, along with other things. It is a priority that we have a space that is conducive to what we wish to do. Now, you may not agree with that. And to the chair, I will take it upon myself to initiate the process by at least communicating with the appropriate committee members, committee chairs within the commission, as well as the city, to talk about the possibility of looking at a different space.
No, I think that's great. I mean, I'm for it, but I would say that if you're going to do that, I would say that we would have to make sure, but we look at our budget and see sort of how much we have there, and then it may be possible that if we need an additional, if we move into a new space, we might require additional funds. And we know that we are not gonna get additional funds from council. So I think that whatever we're doing, we just have to make sure that we kind of, I guess, would know sort of what our price point is or what we can afford based on our budget, but I'm open to it. Like I'm open to it.
And to the chair, there's certain things that you suggested that are obvious, like making sure we got the money in the budget. Those are just obvious things. So I don't think this is rocket science. And but thank you. And I'll yield. I'll take that upon myself.
Commissioner Rodriguez and then Miller and then Benito.
Okay, so I know you mentioned that there was a date that this was supposed to be signed. What's that date?
I would have to go back into my emails to find
Is it like immediate? Is it like a few months?
it. It passed.
Oh,
Like I literally got an email from finance that was like, oh, the building people that were like, just to let you guys know, you have to sign this by this date. And it was like, had to been done, I think, wherever that Friday was. I'll go back and confirm through my
Okay.
emails,
so
but I think the date that they gave was,
that's, so
But
Okay.
it's fine.
yeah, it was something like.
So,
the
has it been signed? I thought you said it wasn't signed.
I said I went down and signed it with finance and the building people.
Okay, a
And
signature.
he did that.
Then I
Oh.
went down and signed it.
Okay, so then, okay, so one, I wanna say that we are a new commission and we're developing different policies and procedures. And we're still learning. I do think this is important conversation just in general about the executive director, how we operate as a commission, our roles with various committees and co-chairs as well. So I just wanted to put that note out there.
Just want to add one more thing, because we are thinking about getting office spaces. You mentioned some things that you were looking for. Can we forward those to Commissioner Nelson? So when we do start looking at office spaces, we'll know what we need, or like office space, of course, for meetings. Just send them an email of what we're going to be looking for and need.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I mean, I wasn't searching. I was just getting reported on about what they were looking for. So I was never involved with any of this. It was just that we were at a point that they needed a signature from the CPC. And so they reached out to us to get that signature. But I can just forward you that they wanted something that was accessible to the public, where parking would not be a hassle, and that would not be too expensive. Those are the only two things that I'm aware of that they were looking for.
I would very much caution us to not move forward with a new office space before this organization is staffed. The core questions that will need to be asked about what office space to have will include how many offices we need to have, how many staff there are going to be, what the composition of those staff members are going to be, and that is going to be something that the new executive director will have to say over. And so I am in agreement that I would love to see us in a different office building, but I very, very strongly believe that a search we should, and if commissioners want to be involved in that search, I highly support that. But I would just ask that you wait until we have an installed executive director, because they should be involved in that process, because they are in charge of running the day-to-day operations of the office. And so what building that occurs in and the layout of that office will be something that will be very important to their ability to run that office. And so I think that in terms of when we have literally only one staff member, our committees are struggling to move work forward because we do not have staff support. I'm worried about us taking on new projects that are not central to the responsibilities of the commission. And it's not to say that we can't do it later. I'm just saying, why don't we wait? We're already locked into this for at least for a year. Can we start it in 6 months when we have an executive director?
And that's a good point. I think that, and I think, we can move on from this, but, the last search, when it was inquired about, we were told by the building department that the search it started too late. So I think if we want to move on this, then we just have to do it earlier. So they were like, we're kind of stuck where we are until because it was started too late. So with this discussion being had, perhaps we can start earlier. So, all right. On that, we'll move to back to the subpoena. So we passed the motion. So basically, in the charter, we are given the authority to issue subpoenas. However, there is no enforcement authority for those subpoenas in the charter. So we, as a body, passed legislation to actually give the subpoenas some actual enforcement authorities. So the motion stated that there will be a fine of up to $250 and that there could be jail time of up to 30 days. And then there's like a additional fine for each day that the subpoena is not honored. So that was the motion that we sent over to the city. We were sponsored by the finance department and it was moved on with council. This past week, we were supposed to, last week, Friday was it, or Thursday? Friday, we got a request from council to appear at a safety meeting last week, Friday, to discuss the subpoenas. But when the meeting started, we were told that we had been taken off of the agenda. So as it stands right now, they, I guess, want additional information from us. We're trying to get some clarity on what exactly that information is because I'm not sure. We're not sure yet, so we're waiting to get some clarity on that. But that's where the CPC subpoena legislation stands, and that's what we have to report with that. And I wanted to know if anyone has any discussion or comments concerns about that. Everyone's all right? Okay. Do you want to talk about it?
Okay, so right now, as you guys know, we only have one staff member. We're awaiting the mayor's decision on our executive director. In the meantime, Dr. Adams and I have reached out to HR Director Matt Cole to ask him if he can help start the process for hiring staff members. We currently have 4 vacant staff positions. So Director Cole said he would help us with posting those staff positions so that when we finally do receive the approval for our executive director, they can begin the hiring process immediately. So we're going to be working with HR to start posting those 4 positions, which include the assistant executive director, the office manager and finance coordinator, the community engagement coordinator, and the senior policy research analyst. So Matt Cole is going to give us examples of assistant director positions, and we as a group will draft what we want our assistant director position to look like. We're also going to be very soon sending out the job descriptions to the office manager, the community engagement coordinator, and the policy analyst positions for you guys to review. And if you want to add anything to those or edit those job descriptions in any way, you will have the opportunity to do that. So as soon as we get the okay from Director Cole, we'll be sending that out to you guys to review. We'll be working with someone from his office to kind of move that work forward. So we'll just keep you posted along the way of how that progresses.
To the co-chair, one of the, I know you're talking about some of the higher ranking positions, but part of the low hanging fruit, it'd be nice to have somebody just to answer the phone. And I know that oftentimes in transition, the city has resorted to, through the HR department, as staff with temporary employees. For example, when Mayor White became mayor, he had a full staff of temporary employees while he was identifying his permanent staff, permanent employees. So he could at least have someone, he brought a few people with him, but they needed someone to answer the phone just to say, Mayor's office, may I help you? We don't have anybody here to say, Police Commission office, may I help you? So I think that, and I know there's been some sometimes transparency just runs wild on it. It gets its own life and just goes crazy. We could probably call the Human Resources Department to Director Cole and say, look, we need at least a temporary employee from one of the agencies to answer the telephone. It's low hanging fruit, minimum budget, and so we can have somebody at least man or woman the office so that we can have some kind of continuity and presence for the public, so they can at least get, at least they can leave a question. If the person can't answer, at least they can leave it and leave the message to the right person. But we need somebody to answer the telephone. That's why we are looking for these higher ranking and more higher employees. Now, I did talk to them last week about that. I know that we can identify, the city can help us identify temporary employees.
Yeah, I'll say, my apologies that I did leave this out, but, I also discussed this with Commissioner Mason. So I did in this email to get the ball rolling to Director Cole, I did ask him, if we could discuss options for temporary office assistants as we navigate our current staffing gap. So I did, put that out there so he does know that we want that and that's on the table. So I forgot to include that.
All right.
Commissioner Wilson.
Thank you.
Through the chair, and Commissioner Kincaid is watching virtually. She had a question as far as if the executive director position isn't immediately filled for hiring staff. Just for clarity, no full-time staff can be hired unless we have the executive director first, and then they make that decision, correct?
I think she's correct on that. So I think when it comes to staffing, I think that's why, we're patiently waiting, but we understand the urgency of the executive director, particularly for that reason. She's absolutely correct that is a duty that is basically that is given to the executive director. So when it comes to hiring staff, I mean, we've talked with HR, we've talked with everyone downtown about it to try to figure out where we can move on this. But the reality is that while some of the responsibilities and duties for the commission, some of them allow either executive director or co-chairs to do certain things, like maybe sign contracts, which is why we were able to go down and sign for the lease. But when it comes to particularly like the grants and when it comes into like the staffing, we kind of hit a wall. Like we kind of did as much as we could do because we're not allowed to legally. So we're not legally allowed. Like for example, we wanted to know that just matters of just like practicality and expedience, if we could just have our one staff member get trained to basically navigate the grant system. And what we were told by the law department was that we actually don't have the authority to give her that responsibility. So only the executive director can. So we are kind of stuck with that. But that's what we were told. So we do have to respect that there are some limits on what we can do. And as far as having someone to answer phones, I do know that Jocelyn has forwarded the calls that come to the commission to her phone. So if they call, her phone is going to ring and she's going to answer it. And we've gotten a lot of correspondence from inquiries, particularly from grantees that have come from them calling and talking to her. So if there's a concern that people are calling and there's no one to answer their phones, I wanted to say to the public and to the commission that if someone calls, she will answer the phone and she will relay those messages. She has been to where they need to go.
Unless she's on that.
To the chair,
Commissioner Mason.
to the chair. I complain about office etiquette all the time. Jocelyn, I do thank you for the work you have been doing for this last month, but for us to put all of this on Jocelyn is unacceptable. The city do have a area that has temporary employees. And so only thing we have to do is just say what it is that we want.
Which has been done.
Okay, but I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there. All this responsibility, and y'all know I'll complain in a minute about somebody being in this office. I don't want her to be the only person here. Like today, when I walked in, Jocelyn, been here all day. That's unacceptable. This office is supposed to be open 5 days, Monday through Friday. And then we have afternoon meetings. And, you know, we have put a lot on her in this last 30 days. So we, as commissioners, we need to make sure that the city know we need temporaries. And that is something that they do have. They work with temporary agencies
Mhm.
that they can get them out here. That is not, should not be a problem.
I do also want to, well, I think we're all in agreement on this. Even while Alex was still here, we had already reached out about temporary assistance. So I know that we can follow up with Matt Cole on it, but we had already put out some notices for temporary help. So we can follow up with if we've
Sure,
had,
already followed up.
yeah, so we'll follow up again, but we can see if there any applications or anything came in from what we already said earlier.
Because we're in an emergency.
We are
This is
definitely-
an emergency
No,
situation.
You're right, I agree with you. And I think that, you know, in general, what has been happening is, you know, we're trying to figure out everything that is within our authority, our ability to do, and we're just trying to do everything that we can do, but what we're learning in the process is that there are some things that we cannot do as a commission, because of like how the charter is written and how the responsibilities and duties are sort of divided. But we're doing what we can, but there are some things we just kind of hit a wall on. Commissioner Van Der.
To the chair, if we hear from a grantee with questions, what's the answer then that they need? I know that Jocelyn has reached out to the city and trying to figure out, so is that the answer, just that we're still in? trying
It
to figure
depends
out?
on what they're inquiring about.
Yeah.
If they are in the step where they still need to like submit paperwork, if they need to like work on their contract, things like that, we can get them all the way to the end still.
How about submitting an invoice to get paid?
That's where it stops. That's where it stops because we have grantees who have done everything they need to do, and they're ready for like a payment disbursement or like another disbursement because they've submitted their receipts and everything, and that's where our wall is. We need, like currently there are grantees in the system that all they're waiting for is someone from our end with the training and the access to literally click the button. But we can't get access to the button. The commissioners cannot, and neither can Jocelyn. So I would say, no, they won't let us. We can't do it either. So, so all I'm saying is, if it's something with the process of like, I know that Commissioner Umosen has been sending documents and everything to the law department in the city for grantees, so that part can still move forward. But until we get an executive director in, who can either delegate it to a staff person to Jocelyn or who will do it themselves, that's where our ability to move on the grant stops. We can still move them forward to that point.
May I ask a question to the chair? The grant money is in whose budget? I know it's in whose budget. Where is it? When the checks are written, who generates the check?
The checks will come from the, what's the controller. I can't remember the exact name.
It comes from
but
somebody.
The grantees, they know where they get their checks from.
Oh,
It comes from
it comes to City Hall.
Yeah.
It comes to City Hall.
Yeah.
Okay. When I was had my school, you had a $500,000 grant. The grant, nobody was on my board. We got the money from the city that went into our account, but it came from the city. So for the recipients who are waiting, why don't we meet with the city, who is actually the comptroller who actually will write and send it. And does our signature go? Does one of our signatures go on the check?
We're
If-
kind of
So
trying to figure it out.
basically where they are right now, we're at a point where the approval has to come from within the system from our end.
Okay.
We don't have anybody in the system to approve it so that they can go pick up the check. You're absolutely correct. But until we make the approvals from our end, they can't, the city can't cut the check for them because some of these grantees have completed a portion of their program and they've submitted their receipts for like the reimbursement, or if they got the hardship, but they need those approved from our end
Okay.
so that the city can actually cut them their next
And
check. That's where we're stuck.
I
And the
reserve
city
my
has
right.
told you that.
Huh?
The city has told you.
Yeah,
that.
we met with the two lawyers that focus on the grants, Patty and Vishnu.
Okay.
We met with them, and then we also, since we were there, went and talked to the finance department.
Yeah.
And this is what they told us.
Now, you're the co-chairs. Now going back to what we've been talking about, executive director responsibility. When, for example, was this gentleman's process approved? Was it while Alex was here?
We don't have that.
I'm not-
right now.
Aware of, I know certain grantees that I've spoken to, but all I'm saying is in general, this is where our limit is. This is what we can still do, but this is where the limit is.
Can I ask, if with chair's permission, when did you submit all your paperwork?
I had everything in and submitted and approved while Alex was still here. Alex was, I actually spoke with him in one of the last meetings that was at, I don't know where it was, school somewhere. Nonetheless, everything was done. I had spoken with Miss Patty Austin. There was some discrepancy there. I met her, request. Everything was done while Alex was there. The approval was there. He approved the hardship. It went to the law department. The law department demands or requests or prerequisites was all met. All of that was done. The law department only deal was to send the contract, the written version, back to the CPC. The CPC sends it to me. I sign the contract. You guys have a signature or whatever. Goes to finance. Finance disperses the money. I'm not sure why, and this may be something to look at in the very near future, why the executive director has so much autonomy that in its absence, it's like the CPC is crippled to its knees. It does not make sense. We're prioritizing leasing the office, prioritizing all this stuff, but you can't get nothing done because one person is gone. That is a breach in the checks and balances of this whole hierarchy.
Actually,
So I will say that that's the charter, that's the law. So the issue 24, as it was passed, if you go look at issue 24, it lays out the duties of the commissioners and it lays out the duties of the executive director. So that is literally the charter of the city of Cleveland. So we can't,
and we're not.
we have to like honor that.
I
That's
don't
the
know
law.
if it seems
So
like it's there's adversity, but what I am saying is, what you're saying to the public, not just to me, to the public, is that one person that left their position, that authority crippled the whole commission to even sign off on something that was already approved. The approval process is not with the city or with the law department, it's with you.
You know.
okay, so all
Yeah, so
right.
I'm saying it's like
So
it's an
what I'm
internal-
gonna say is I'm gonna take bring this meeting to order. So we will focus this on the commissioners, and if there's another thing, I think we'll have a second public comment. But we should be discussing this as a board and not
Sure.
without the community at this point. We will have another comment, but Commissioner Rodriguez.
Sure.
So thank you for your comments. I would just like to have us to consider or ponder of who created that section in the charter, 1. 2, as well, in my opinion, without going too far in the deep, I feel like a lot of things have been a ripple.
To the chairman, Ms. Rodriguez, you finished? To the chairman, this is why I said that while we should always have somebody running the show all the time, which means that while the permanent is being identified, we should have an interim in place all the time. We should never, this is the second year that as the gentleman just indicated, that we've been crippled by the absence of an executive director. We should never, and we have that initiative to talk to the city and say we need an interim, because it in fact does cripple us, and there is a way for us to get around and address and make sure we function if not with a permanent exec director, with an interim. So I'll leave it at that, and I think we need to take steps to communicate with them. And that's why we also need a lawyer here assigned to us at all times to address questions like this. But that's another story. But I think we should go and meet with the mayor, or meet with Davey, or our ethics director, and our law director to address this interim thing, so that we will never, ever be crippled like we are right now. Thank you.
Okay, so,
I just want to say that Alex did approve all hardships and pending grant issues before he left. So anything that's still pending now are things that occurred after. So if you had to turn in something else, you know, and now you need, you know, further approval, that's something different. So he did approve all those things before he left. I just wanted to say
Right.
that. Okay, so, I think.
yeah, I think we should.
I think we should move on.
And then I think, the next item that we wanted to discuss was, how the co-chair election process
No, you
works.
skipped something.
December.
So we know it's a holiday season, so, typically, you know, we typically have to move because we meet the fourth Wednesday, and then Thanksgiving is the fourth Thursday, so we typically, have to move the November day, so that's why we're meeting this week instead of next week. And so what December will be also with the holiday is we don't have a date set in stone. What we've been doing is kind of started with when Commissioner Rodriguez and Commissioner Ridgway were co-chairs, but they're in the consent decree, I believe it's paragraph 26. We are supposed to receive a report from the district policing committees. They are required to report to us annually. So typically, it's kind of like I said, tradition that they started. Like basically, that meeting will happen in December, and then typically we will maybe conduct some commission business before, and then we move into the reports, the reporting back from the district policing committees. So because it requires the attendance of usually the commanders that are in a part of those district policing committees, we typically reach out to the chief, or this year we were the deputy chief, Chief Slot, and we kind of work on sort of a general time frame for when we would want to have the meeting, and then they sort of work the schedules of the officers to find a date that works with them. All right, so it looks like I think I may have missed the email before I got here, but Commissioner Zayed, Co-Chair Zayed is saying that the date is going to be Thursday, December 11th. So that will serve as tentatively December 11th. We give them several dates, but when we can get a final date from the
We just have to,
CDP,
it seems like the date is good, we just have to finalize a location. So as long as we can, find a space for that meeting on the 11th where it's gonna move forward. If we cannot find a space, we may have to move the date.
okay, so it sounds like it's the 11th, pending securing a space.
Safe to say the 11th or the 18th?
I would just go with the 11th for now.
That's for the 18th, so I can keep both. If you
Oh,
gotta realize people
or the 9th. I
block
think
stuff off
we
their
did
calendar, so
The-
give us some.
No, wait, hold on real quick. I'm sorry, through the chair. There's a, Commissioner Kincaid said that there's a DPC meeting December 11th at 6 p.m. at the Midtown Collaboration Center.
So what's the email that you got?
No, it's not on the calendar.
I confirmed this afternoon that both the venue and police department can do December 11th.
Right.
What's the
Exactly.
meeting on the?
Okay, so I think, so this is what, that's Wednesday, there is a policy meeting.
We'll figure it
So
out.
basically, I think I guess, so that we don't, get bogged down and get in the weeds. What we're saying is, please leave the 11th open. We gave them the dates of the 9th and the 11th and the 17th. because the 10th didn't work. And I also know that Commissioner Kincaid wasn't even available on the 10th, so it kind of works out. She wasn't going to be available anyway. So we're saying just keep the 9th, the 11th, and the 17th open. And then when we get confirmation, because we can't just set a date for them because they have to coordinate their schedules, because they have to be present to give the presentation. So we typically sort of defer to what the best date is for them, because in the end, we'll be there, but they're going to be the ones giving the presentation. So we typically just have to work with what works best for them on this particular meeting. That will serve us a December full meeting. So if there's still like any business that anyone needs to address or move forward, we typically will do that first and then move into the reports from the different districts. All right. Anything else on that? Okay, we'll move to the next item. So just moving forward, I know there were some questions that were sent around about how the process for co-chairs work. There was an inquiry about the motion that we passed in March about how long Sharita and I would stay on. So I went back and I looked at the meeting, and the motion that we passed, which was put forward by Commissioner Benito and was passed with unanimous consent of the commission, is that we would stay in for the remainder of the year, and that basically we would just adhere to our normal rules process that is in our rules already. So what that process is that in December, there will be nominations for co-chair. In January, we will vote for co-chair. And essentially, once the vote is done, whoever's elected, they take over as co-chairs. So there's been there's no disruption in that process that is listed in the in our operations manual. Is there any? I know there were some questions over email, but I don't know if anyone has any other questions or anything they need clarified. Okay. So whoever's gonna run, be ready next month to announce your name. And then I'm gonna have Commissioner Zayed talk about the weekly meetings with the police accountability team.
Okay, so since September, I've been meeting regularly with the police accountability team to review and improve the process for requesting records. Our focus has been to identify what issues exist within the current workflow, understand where delays occur, and work together toward a long-term solution. So over this period, we've tracked multiple categories of records requests, including internal affairs records, human resource records, OPS records, etc. For each type, we monitor the full life cycle of the request from submission to fulfillment. And as of today, all of the requests in our tracking samples have been completed. So tomorrow, I meet with the police accountability team where they will be presenting an analysis of the process based on the data gathered so far. We expect to continue tracking a few additional requests to ensure a clear and accurate picture of how the entire system functions. The broader goal is to identify the root cause of the delays in the process, address those barriers, and ultimately improve the turnaround time so that the city can consistently comply with the current court-ordered deadlines. Ideally, once the process is running smoothly and reliably, the court order may not be necessary or needed. I believe the collaboration has been productive and positive. The meetings have been solution-focused, and I look forward to continuing this work with the police accountability team as we move closer to resolving our long-standing issues and strengthening with records requests and strengthening the transparency within our organization.
Is there any questions, comments on that? I think it's been really good to have those weekly meetings, sitting down every week. It seems to have been, helping build those relationships that we talk about, and just everyone understanding, getting on the same page about sort of how this needs to work. Because while we're learning, what we're also understanding is that the city's also learning too, because they never really had to do this the way that they have to do it now. So I think it's been better to sit down at the table with people and discuss with them. So I would tell Sharita, keep doing what you're doing. I think it's helping in a lot of good ways. So kudos to her for that, because she goes to those meetings and I don't. And then the last thing we wanted to just address really quickly is that the the Inspector General investigation into the settlement agreements. Right now, I think we all know that we made the request for her to do an investigation, and she's agreed to do that. And so we'll be waiting for that. What we're asking for is a understanding of the process that led to the settlement agreement, because from the time that we've been on the commission, I don't know if any other commissioners can recall, in receiving discipline, that we've never received a settlement agreement. Typically what happens is that there is an investigation, and then there's some findings made from the investigation. Then there's like specifications of policy violations that are identified. And then those usually, depending on the level of the violation, whether it's I believe levels 1 and 2 go to the chief, and level 3 goes to the public safety director. And usually there's a notice with a charge letter of a upcoming hearing. Then that hearing takes place. This is called a pre-disciplinary hearing, because you have to hear the evidence before you actually discipline. So it's called a pre-disciplinary hearing. And from that pre-disciplinary hearing, the discipline for the specifications are, okay, all right. I'm gonna, just to make sure there's clarity, I'll start over. So, I think we all can remember when there was a list released about HR investigations, officer complaints that were not done. We had found that there were investigations as far back as 6 years that had not been investigated. One of the cases that was on in that list concerned 3 officers, and I think we all know there was the homophobic remarks made and the use of city devices, etc. And so when we released that list, it activated the actual investigations. So sometime around March, those investigations were completed. And we received all of those investigations. Well, I would say most of those investigations. I'm not sure if we got all of them, but we got a big bulk of them. And in this one particular case, that we're talking about, we got that investigation, and then because the investigation was completed, it would then move into that process of the discipline piece. So like the HR made their findings, but they don't hand out discipline. So the public safety department they sent us a charge letter. They had the pre-disciplinary hearing. And that pre-disciplinary hearing was conducted on July 25th. And then there was sort of a silence about it. And so we were following up about this particular case because it was a case of public interest. And so while we were at NACO, we received the discipline. But typically when we get the discipline, it's in the form of a disposition letter. It will say, you were accused of violating so-and-so of the manual rules. This is a group 2, a group 1, a group 3, and you were found guilty, and this is your discipline. When we got this email, it was a settlement agreement. So we were at NACO and we were baffled. We were all sitting at the table, after the NACO sessions, trying to figure out what is this settlement agreement, because we had never seen it before. And when we went back and looked at the corrective action policy, under where this procedures, it lays out the process of how discipline is supposed to be conducted. And this seemed out of line with what the actual policy said the process was. And then the other thing that was concerning to us is that the charter clearly states that we are the final authority on discipline. And in this settlement agreement, it stated that it was final. It stated that nobody could come back and address anything in the settlement agreement. And so we did not agree with that because we were not involved in the process. So our stance is that it cannot be final if we have not participated in the process, because that's what the charter says. And so because we've never seen this before, we thought the best thing to do would be to request that the Inspector General look into the process that led to that settlement agreement. And so that's what I think everyone saw the email. But we requested that she look into the process because it seems to be out of line with the charter, and it's also out of line with the CDP's their own policies. And so that's the background, I guess, the information that people would need. But we're waiting because our concern is that if this is allowed to stand, then it could become a way to basically bypass us in the discipline process, which I think the charter clearly states that we are the final authority. So we felt that we needed to go this route to get some clarity on this, because we want to make sure that we don't set a precedent that we allow ourselves to be omitted from the process that the charter clearly states that we're supposed to be involved in. So before all this happened, I know we talked a lot about building relationships and trying to build trust. So before we even sent out the request, we reached out to the Inspector General. We reached out, had a conversation with Public Safety Director Drummond, and also reached out to Chief Todd, and also our attempt was made to talk to Dr. Lee Anderson, the Police Accountability Team. So we're, they were informed that, we want to let you know we're going to do this. Just if they had any questions or anything. But we then sent the correspondence out to have the investigation done. How long that's going to take, we don't know. But that's, I guess, would be all the information that the public and the commissioners would need. I don't know if there's any questions on that.
Is there anything in the charter or bylaws that says how long they have to investigate?
How long the Inspector General? I don't think so. But we can ask and we can check. And maybe we can get her to give us maybe like a timeline about how long it might take. I'll write that down. Is there anyone else? Any other questions or Commissioner Chura?
Yes. You guys seem to be aware of this case. I have no idea which one you're speaking of. It was a past case, which a lot of those were sitting in City Hall. I'm sure that the labor law time has already passed with some of that. That might be the reason they're doing that. But why haven't we received any of this information on this? You've seen the case, right?
Say that one more time.
You've seen the case file? And who's involved and everything?
Yeah, I think that all of the, I have it here, but I created a folder on the OneDrive and I shared it with all the commissioners.
I don't think I've ever seen this case file. So, I get a hard copy or whatever.
You can have this one.
It's on there.
Yeah, but it's, I think I've shared it out twice. I'll share it out again. But we have.
I'm familiar with this one.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll share, because what happened was when the investigations were done, we didn't receive them electronically, like we had to go down to HR and pick them up, and so then we have to have them digitized here. And then, so that's why we created a separate folder, it's not on our CPC documents. SharePoint that we have with them, but I can, I'll send that link out again so that people know that if you're interested in, if you're any of those HR investigations, there's like a whole file, they're all digitized for everybody, so, yeah. Christina?
Yeah, so we talked about it in the last accountability committee meeting as well, and I sent some questions last night to the law director Griffin based on the conversation that we had, and so I will be sending any answers that we get from that to the accountability committee as well.
I'm sure,
To Chair, I was looking at the Commissioner Chair. I think there were 3 people that were named. There were 3 that were highlighted: Mafo, Commander Judd, Officer Seifer, Officer Walter.
Yeah.
That were highlighted, and I think there's an attachment that may have some of those information.
There was a fourth officer involved, but they retired. So clearly they're retired, so there's nothing we can do about that. It's-
To the chair, I can't find it now, but follow up on Commissioner Chura. Were there any dates attached to that? I'm sure they were, I just can't find it.
What do you mean? What
Dates for those three officers, the settlements agreements. What the settlement agreements, they address issues that occurred on a particular date, and I was trying to find the date.
I think that the date of the incident, is that what you're referring to?
The date of the incidents that the settlement agreements apply to. I just
So
can't
what did I
find
say?
it.
Is it 2023 or 20?
I just can't find it.
The original incident happened on January 5th, 2022, and the report was made, or complaint was made on June 7th, 2022, it says here. Which is a significant amount of time from January to June. But
I mean, I think that this brings up several issues that we should be concerned about. If the initial complaint was made, if the incident happened in January, it was filed in June, then it shouldn't take until June of 2022. It shouldn't take until March 6th of 2025 to complete the investigation. So I think that that was one of the issues we were trying to address with that list, but we have to figure out, these are like precedents and they could potential strategies to undermine police reform. You can't run the clock out and then be like too late. Like that cannot be how this operates. So we feel that you took so long to investigate it that we still have a duty to administer this discipline. And so I think we move forward in that way because, think about it. The investigation was done on March 6th and we moved forward almost immediately on it. Like as soon as they went through their discipline process, we were right on it. So I think that this brings up other issues that we kind of need to work through and figure out because, again, I feel like the same thing with the settlement agreement. I think that if we, without getting clarity or without like questioning and maybe fighting on these things, these will be precedents that will be set that will then stop us from using the full authority that the citizens gave us in the charter. So while I get that there are rules and there are agreements in a collective bargaining agreement, that's another issue this brings up, right? Like, is the collective bargaining agreement in alignment with the actual charter? So yeah, when we first came in, they were under a collective bargaining agreement, and that collective bargaining agreement was going to end in early 2025. So this new collective bargaining agreement was entered into after the passage of issue 24. So I think that's another question that we need to ask is, then why is the collective bargaining agreement not consistent with the charter? And I think as they enter into eventually a new collective bargaining agreement, I think we should advocate for being at the table to ensure that whatever agreement is in place, that it does not conflict with the collective, with the charter, because I think then at a certain point, we have to get a decision on basically if this is like, what is it? Are we going to follow the collective bargaining agreement or are we going to follow the charter? And my understanding is that the charter is the law and that it supersedes everything.
And that's why I've heard instances of law directors in other cities obtaining outside counsel to negotiate these agreements to make sure that there's no conflicts and all of the laws are being followed. So that's, just gonna put that out there.
So I think it's like a case where it may look very particular and narrow, but I think this is a much larger issue in terms of like how we move forward. I think we were at a point as a commission where we weren't even at the point where we were able to hear the cases, and we were trying to get ourselves to a certain point. But now I think that we're sort of there, and I think now we need to think about these sorts of questions and the actions that are being taken, because what we don't want to do is participate in the undermining of our own authority. And I think that if we don't, like, at least open up the conversation and address these things, I think that we could inadvertently do that. And that would be a disservice to the work of the citizens and the activists that got 115.5 passed, in the charter. Commissioner Benito?
One of the questions that we posed to Law Director Griffin was, I'll just read it. The charter gives the CBC final decision-making authority on discipline matters. Quote from the charter, any order by the commission to increase or impose discipline will be final, and the chief and executive head of the police force must follow it. End quote. If a discipline decision were to ever come to the CBC for a review, and the CBC voted to change the discipline of these cases where a settlement has been reached, would the law department defend the decision of the CBC? And so I think it kind of comes down to, if we believe that the charter still gives us the right to make the final discipline decision. And if this kind of maneuvering is done as a way to avoid that, then I believe that that's a problem, and I believe that's contrary to the spirit of the law.
To the
And
chair, oh, I'm sorry, somebody else is speaking.
Is there anyone else down here?
To the chair,
Commissioner Nelson.
here's the question I have. We are now without an executive director. Can we have any hearings? Can we conduct any hearings on
So-
current cases?
So what I can tell you is that we absolutely could. But because the code, like, all right, everyone, you gotta think about the different documents that govern this body. We have the consent decree, federal, we have the charter that is local, and we also have our operations manual, our rules. What identifies the executive director as basically being like the person that leads the hearings and presents the case is our rules. So we control our rules. But I think that, after some discussions, with the,
We discussed this in the economy.
so basically,
Well,
It-
that was a follow-up
we have
question.
this commission is governed by the will of the majority of the commission. That is how it operates. We all can have our opinions. If someone or a majority of commissioners feel that they would like to have hearings without an executive director, then we would have to go through a process of addressing that in our rules.
You answered my question. Here's my follow-up.
Let me finish, please.
I have a follow-up.
I know, but I would like to finish and you can follow up.
Okay.
So, okay, yeah, so all I'm saying is
I'm
that
gonna reserve my right to follow up.
I'm not,
Right
okay,
now.
I'll
Well,
allow
I'm
you
not
to
gonna
follow.
chill, Mr. I forget your
All
name.
right.
I'm not gonna chill.
So-
I'm gonna ask my follow-up question.
So-
when he finishes. Go
so
ahead.
all-
Order, please.
So, yeah,
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
all I'm saying is that, again, we should think about if
Don't
that,
do
if that's something, can we call the meeting to order, please?
Go right
I'm
ahead.
just saying, all I want to say is I think that we need to understand like what documents are governing us in different instances. In this instance, are rules. I just want us to also think about, if that's something that we want to do. Like, I know that we want to like hear the cases, but we have to think about if, like, again, precedents that we're setting. And I just would caution us to just move, without considering what the longer term consequences of an action.
Here's my follow-up. This underscores why we need an interim. Because if we can do the hearings, then why are we doing it? If you indicated, yes, we can pursuant to our rules. So we don't need to delay if we have pressing hearings so they don't become stale. We should proceed.
Go ahead, Commissioner Vidal.
So we had a discussion in the accountability committee meeting, which you were a part of, and we discussed the different options that included bringing in somebody on to handle the case reviews, or having a commissioner or commissioners work on it. And in that committee meeting that all of us were a part of, the consensus was that we did not want to move forward with continuing hearings in the absence of an executive director. And so I was not aware that you had a difference of opinion since that meeting. And I would be happy for us in the December meeting to reopen that and revisit options for us to be able to do that.
Let me restate my question with specificity this time. Mr. Chairman, can we hold meetings in the absence of executive director? Your answer was yes, thank you. Appreciate your answer. That was the question I asked. Okay, the editorial was not necessary. Thank you, sir.
Was that for?
No. You answered the question I asked. Appreciate you.
Okay. I was just providing clarity because technically we can, but we would have to adjust the rules. Van there, and then we'll go Commissioner Rodriguez, and then we'll come back to Commissioner.
I don't have any more.
Okay.
You sure?
Yeah, I think
So,
you.
Commissioner, co-chair.
Yeah.
My understanding is what you said is that pursuant to our rules, so would we need to change our rules to do something different?
We would have to make some type of adjustment, whether it be suspending the
So under
rule.
the current rules,
No.
we can't do it, but
Absolutely
we
not.
have to change it. Okay.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
So, from my understanding and my observation, I don't think we have a lawyer at this time specifically to the CPC. So I would highly not encourage hearing cases because of the different risks and liabilities that may result. I always think it's very important to be informed of the different legalities. So I'm just gonna just put that out there for consideration. And I'm gonna echo what John said about the precedents we created, especially with establishing rules. I don't think it's best practice to go back and revise, especially when we have a number of things where we need to make judgments about. We want to ensure that anything that we pass is deliberate and intentional, and I'm just leave it there.
Yeah. So I think that what my concern would be is, you just don't want to start changing your rules for the moment. Like, I think that is a dangerous thing to do. And you can create circumstances, we've experienced this already, where our rules could be weaponized in scenarios like that. We've experienced that. And I think that those of us that were here when that happened, I'm speaking for myself, but I think that you change the rules for the purpose of if you figure out that it's not the best way for the commission to conduct itself, not because I want to do this right now. And so therefore, I'm just going to change the rules so I can do it. Because once we change it, we're going to have to change it back. So I don't know. I wouldn't support that. We are in a less than tenable situation right now. And I just think that, it's the situation that we're in. And I would just say that. But listen, like I said, we are governed by the majority will of the commission. And we will honor that. But we all have our opinions about the different subjects.
To Chair, my question was real simple. Can we or can we not? Now, you said we could, but then you said we couldn't. So I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure we can't conduct it.
No, I think I've been very consistent. Under the current rules, we cannot. But if we
Okay,
choose
thank
to, please don't do that.
Thank you. That's what
But
I
if we
was-
choose to change the rules, then we would be able to.
That was not my question. My question was, can we?
All right, so we're gonna move on to the
You
next.
said, you said we
All right, we're gonna move
cannot.
on to the-
Mr. Chairman, hold.
Yeah.
I have the floor. I asked you a question, you gave me an answer, and then I'm trying to make sure I understood your answer. So you first said yes, but the answer is actually no, without changing the rules.
Okay, that's your
Okay,
understanding.
now I'm
So we'll
good.
move on
Correct.
to the committee status reports. I know that,
No, that's.
the Rules Committee, Commissioner Coleman is not here. But she said that she did not have a committee report. And I believe that she's working on a meeting maybe sometime around I know that they're on the calendar for the 9th, but depending on how these things go with the December meeting with the district policing committees, she may change it. So I just know that. Then we'll move on to the accountability committee report done by Commissioner Mario Benito.
Yes, we already talked a little bit about some of the discussion that we had about the settlement agreement that was reached. We're awaiting information from Law Director Griffin so that we can continue that discussion, have a better understanding of that situation. We had a discussion, as we just alluded to, about what to do with our current cases in the absence of an executive director. And the consensus that was reached by the committee was that those that process will just have to wait until we have an executive director, and then reviewing those case packages and putting together the case packages and then holding hearings will resume after the executive director is onboarded and is ready to do so. And then the last thing is some of our work groups around discipline and the Brady Giglio. We just have a rather kind of large pot of large set of files of discipline decisions that we need to go through to create the database that we can then use to dig through some of these cases and make a determination if there are cases that we need to look at, request case files for review, and also move forward on identifying officers for the Brady Giglio list. But that, we just need some, I think Co-Chair Adams and I are going to try to get some work done on that, but with the absence of staff, it's slowing down the work a little bit, if that's where we're at. Oh, and then we also changed our regular meeting date. Our new regular meeting date is now the second Monday of every month at 5:30 p.m. And so that will go into effect on December 8th. And so December 8th at 5:30 p.m. will be our next meeting.
Thank you for that update. Next, we will have Commissioner Chair Van Leer from the Policy Committee.
Thank you, Co-Chair. So we have more than a general update. Actually, we have a corrective action guidance GPO that we would like to present to the full commission for passage. I sent out a draft over the weekend, which was largely similar to previous drafts. So the process on this GPO last summer, a year and a half ago almost, two committee members, a former commissioner and member of the Cleveland Division of Police, and another committee member worked on a draft together, and we started with that draft and worked through that, and we passed it in November. The full commission moved forward. It went to the DOJ, the monitoring team. We got their comments back in January, I believe, and started to work through that. And then, of course, there was a period of time when the commission was not functioning as a full commission. Commissioner Benito and I, who's also a member of the policy committee, we did some work on it and has gone through more process. We've had over that year and a half period, a lot of input from committee members, from Kayla Pincus as a committee member who has worked with members of the Black Shield to provide us input, worked with the division's policy unit. We've had other input on it. So we've arrived now at this draft that was passed out of the policy committee meeting last night. And I do have one change that's been brought to my attention that we need to make. But otherwise, it is very similar. It is the same as what was sent out over the weekend.
Do you want to go over that change?
Yeah. Do you have anything else to add, Commissioner? Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, are there any questions about the process before I get into the details of this change? Or anything in your readings of this GPO? Okay. So the change is that we've been going back and forth on, I gotta find my copy here, on group 3, a certain violation. So right now on the draft that went out, the second to last item in group 3 violations, it's on page 8. The top set of bullet points: failure to fully cooperate with the Cleveland Community Police Commission in performing its duties. So at one point in the draft, that was actually in group 4, and in negotiations, we erroneously moved it to group 3. But if you read the charter, charter section 115.5, it says in a lot of different Roman numerals, but one of them says that full cooperation by the Chief of Police, Division of Police, and Executive Head of the Police Force is required. Chief of Police, all Division of Police employees, and the Executive Head of the Police Force must fully cooperate with the Commission in performing all of its duties. Failure to do so is a terminable offense, and the Commission may seek injunctive relief for failures. So what I'm proposing is that we move that back to group 4, because only group 4 violations are terminable according to the matrix at the end of this document. So it's pretty straightforward change, but it is significant. I wanted to bring that up.
Are you looking for a motion?
I am looking for a motion.
I would move to approve the corrective action guidance and with the change being made to move the failure to fully collaborate with the Cleveland Community Police Commission, line to the Group 4 violation. Section E.
Is there any discussion?
We need a second.
Oh, we got a second. We need a second.
I'll second that motion.
All right, motion's been seconded by Commissioner Miller. The floor is open for discussion. Looks like there's no discussion, so we will move this forward to a vote. Commissioner Chura,
Nay.
Commissioner Kincaid, or Commissioner Mason?
Abstain. Because I do have some questions. Pete, I'll be meeting with you.
Well,
This was the opportunity, this was the opportunity for question. And that's how the process works, right? You, before the vote, there's discussion.
I abstain.
Commissioner Miller,
Yay.
Commissioner Benito,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Abstain.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
No.
Commissioner Van Leer,
Yes.
Commissioner Zayed,
Yes.
Commissioner Umasin,
Yes.
and I think I'm last, Commissioner Adams. I vote yes. The motion is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ayes, 2 nays, 2 abstentions. Motion passes.
Does it pass? It's not 7.
It's a majority.
It's the
Oh,
majority,
majority.
it's the majority, it's the majority of the quorum.
Okay.
So we have 10 commissioners present and 6 of the 10 have voted yes, so that motion passes.
Okay, great.
All right, do you have anything else, Commissioner Van Leer?
That's it. We have a meeting December 10th, and we're gonna start to look at, this has been a big.
Yeah.
We haven't had regular meetings in a bit, so this will be our next meeting. We're gonna start looking, and I am more than happy to, Commissioner Mason or Commissioner Mike, anything, you wanna talk about, you can. I just, there's always room for adjustment, and actually the GPO states that this will be reviewed, revised as needed every year, so there's always room for improvement, and I know there'll be community members who might have ideas. Once we see how it starts to play out, we'll have more information too, but I'm open to conversation on the side.
Right, so to the public and to the commission, so the how this will work is, this will be sent over to the monitoring team for the DOJ for review. I know they reviewed it before, but they're gonna wanna look at it again. And then if there are no significant changes that are like substantive, we can probably move forward on this. But if they have anything that they're gonna flag, we might have to come and do another revision and then vote on it again. And I would also like to say that there's been a lot going on in this commission, and I do think that we owe Commissioner Van Leer, a huge just round of applause, because he has moved some really difficult items and critically important items for the functioning and of this commission, and for us to be able to assert our authority under the charter. And I don't really think he often gets enough credit for all the work that he does, because he kind of does it quietly. But I do think that I wanted to acknowledge him for that. And to again, also, like, this is a major deal of what we're doing. Like, we are literally restructuring how the officers will move through their disciplinary process. And I think that one of the things that we saw in our, when the first case that we heard was that, we had so much stuff grouped into that group 3. And so the range of what could happen on the group 3 is so broad sometimes, that I think that it was a smart move to create not just the group 4, which is the termination category, but also sort of this non-discipline category that is there as well. So I think that, I don't want us to underestimate sort of how major this is, and that this has been years and years of labor that have gone into this. And I want to thank Commissioner Van Leer, the previous members of the Accountability Committee, the current members of the Accountability Committee, and also Kayla Pincus and Richard Jackson, who also did a lot of work and helped us on this. So I want to thank everyone who was involved with this.
I agree. I want to thank the community members, and Pete, you are consistently doing a lot of the heavy lifting. We all appreciate that.
Commissioner Benito?
One thing I'd like to add too is, so there was a work group that put together a report in 2020 from the CPC, and that they created a draft model disciplinary guidance. At that time, it was sent to CDP, and at that point, all we had was recommendation powers. And so a lot of the things that were in that model disciplinary guidance were utilized by Kayla Pincus and Sergeant Jackson, who was part of this work group, in helping us with the first draft and doing a lot of great work on this. And so I also just want to acknowledge all of the people on that work group as well, and just point out the success of having this commission with greater powers and actual powers to make decisions and implement policies as opposed to just recommendations, because these are things that the community has been asking for 5 years. And because of the powers that we now have, we were able to make that happen. So just want to acknowledge that.
All right, thank you. I think the next committee report will be the outreach committee meeting, but Commissioner Kincaid is sick and she couldn't be here. I think she said she doesn't have a report, so I think we'll just move on from there. But I just want to acknowledge that she did respond. She's under the weather, which is why she's not here. Our next report is the Budget and Grants Committee report from Commissioner Umosen.
Thank you. I feel like we already had it earlier in the meeting. And I appreciate you for being here and just keep at it and just letting us know, just because in general, you know how this year we could have issued grants, but by a push of a button with the help of United Black Fund. But because of the issues of 2023, 2024, it's like, what's the point in opening up a third cycle when you can't do the first two, and that's not a shot at any person, but we just need that time to work through these two before we issue out, anything else or try to issue out anything else. So that's the information for that. And there's just a lot of hands in the process. So I know we've been working to kind of just limit the amount of hands in the process. Another thing that you all mentioned as far as, I don't really like this.
Turn it down. Turn it down.
Oh, what about now? Okay, so then one of the other things too is, right, for temporary staff, the process of reaching out to see what temporary staff member can we get whose sole purpose is to push the button or send out payment, because we know since legally we can't send out that payment, but that's something that, for that next process, what we're trying to do is, right, who can we get who specifically can just do that to issue the payment. So for that, the other thing too is just when we talk about a next grant cycle, it really has to just go down to sending out and sharing as much information as possible to our neighbors, community members, neighbors, and let them know all the information that's needed up front for a grant, so that people don't, they get into the process, a grant's approved, but then all the documentation they might not be able to provide. We talk about a next cycle, it's, how do you limit those things? And then also as far as grassroots organizations or organizations that have been around for a long time, it's, how do we even the playing field where at least if you're beginning, how can you still get funding to do an idea that empowers, our neighbors, than an organization that's been here, okay, they, if you receive the funds that you already have a system up and running to get that going. So those are the type of things that we've been talking about, conversations with United Black Fund to see what we can do, but definitely 2023, 2024, this process, has been unacceptable. And so I appreciate you for coming and, staying on us and letting us know that, just because we're trying to clean up this situation. I feel like that's a good thing as far as the temporary employee thing we've been talking about, to issue out the payments, but definitely unacceptable.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And then next we have the training committee report given by Chair Miller.
All right, everyone, we have a few things going on in our training committee. First, I want to give an update about the Commissioner Reality-Based Scenario Training at Tri-C. Western Public Safety Training Facility. We had to put a hold on that because we don't have an ED or someone that can push that forward. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to hold off for that. Another update is that when Alex was here, he did create a CPC training request form, which has actually been working on this form. You gotta give credit where it's due. It tells you basically what trainings is needed, the purpose of the training, exactly what paragraph in the consent decree, we can find that training is needed up under, and the approval date. So once I've been, putting all these in a folder, so that way we can make a timeline on when things are due, instead of me coming to you a week, like I need y'all to hurry up and read all this. We need time. We're trying to come up with a time frame so if everyone's not rushed to read through these things and can understand and have time to ask questions. We also discussed at our last meeting about a Citizens Academy, Know Your Rights work group. So look for that. Again, without staff, putting things together is a little hard, but we do have that coming down the pipeline. I did send out about over a month ago 4 motions that needs to be reviewed by the committee. I can briefly explain them and then put forth a motion. Question, should I give a description, then put forth the motion, or give all descriptions? One at a time, okay. So we have the approval of the 2026 Session 1 training. That's basically a weapons handling training, which consists of the pistol, CBT lesson plan, shotgun, IST lesson plan. So basically they gave us all those trainings so that they can be approved, because they need to go to the monitors and other people that need to review them. Can I put my own motion forth? I move that the CPC approve that the Cleveland Division of Police 2026 Session 1 training as presented. This approval authorizes the CPC staff to continue coordinating with the CDP's training section to ensure that curriculum reflects community priorities, constitutional policing standards, and all applicable consent decree requirements.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been seconded. The floor is open for discussion.
I do want to say before our last training meeting, we did have 2 of our members from the training committee training division come and explain each of these to us. So any questions, concerns about that one?
I'll move the previous question.
All right, so it sounds like there's no discussion.
I'm sorry, did y'all take my forms that I made?
Yeah.
Oh,
I was gonna take
Don't do
that over. Sorry. So we'll start with Commissioner Mason,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
yes.
Commissioner Vito,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Leer,
Yes.
Commissioner Chura,
Aye.
Commissioner Zayed,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. That motion passes.
So you missed me,
I'm
but
sorry,
yes.
Commissioner Umos, I'm so sorry.
That's okay, yes.
I'm so sorry, I did not do that on purpose. So that motion passes,
Unanimously.
10 yeas and 0 nays. So,
All right, thank you for that one. We have motion 2 that we need to get through. So it's a internal affairs AI course, 3-day course outline. Yeah, that was internal affairs. Did anyone have any questions or concerns about that one? All right, I'm going to put the motion forward. I move that the Cleveland Community Police Commission approve the inclusion in a AI course as standalone training requirements for 2026. This motion further authorizes CPC oversight of the course's curriculum development to ensure alignment with best practices in administration investigations, accountability, and offer conduct standards.
okay. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been seconded. Floor is open for the discussion. Seeing that there is none, we will call for the vote. Commissioner Mason,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Benito,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes.
Commissioner Zayed,
Yes.
Commissioner Chura,
Aye.
Commissioner Umason,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams, I say yes as well. That skips, I'm sorry, Commissioner Van Leer, I'm so sorry.
Aye.
See, it's not person. That motion, sorry about that. That motion passes 10-0 as well.
All right,
Next.
we have another motion of the CPD dispatch, CIT training, which is the crisis communication response, including engaging with early population, additional to SICIT training 2025. So that both consist of the dispatch training outline for 2025 to be finalized. There's a PowerPoint in there. They also had a dispatcher crisis lesson plan and a geriatric mental health, so dealing with those, over in age. I'm gonna move that motion, the motion that the CPC endorse the CDP dispatch crisis intervention, CIT training, crisis and communication response with an emphasis on engaging with elderly population as presented in implementation as part of the division's expanded specialized CIT/SCIT training for 2025. This motion approves that the CPC support of curriculum development, monitoring, and the community-informed content to strengthen the CDP's, too many things, dispatch level crisis response capabilities. That is that motion.
Right. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. The floor is open for discussion. Hearing that there is none, we would call for the vote. Commissioner Mason,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Commissioner Murray Bonito,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Leer,
Aye.
Commissioner Umason,
Aye.
Commissioner Zayed,
Aye.
and I vote yes as well. Commissioner Chura, sorry.
Aye.
Get you some more
I'm
glasses.
gonna get this right
It's
before
the
we do this
phone.
last
One more
vote.
chance.
Yeah, and then I vote yes as well. That motion also passes.
Awesome, let's get past this. Fourth motion, which is the CGP's 3-year training plan, and that's gonna be from 2026 to 2028. And it's basically everything all their trainings, everything up in services, yeah. Okay, so that was sent out. I move that the CVC approve the CDP's proposed 3-year training plan for 2026 to 2028, contingent upon continued commission review and oversight to ensure compliance with the constitutional policing requirements, community engagement, expectations, and the consent decree. This approval authorizes the CVC staff to work collaboratively with the CDP to evaluate training effectiveness, alignment with community priorities, and annual updates to the plan.
All right, thank you. Motion has been presented. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Floor is open for discussion. Hearing that there is none, we will move to the vote. Commissioner Mason,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Commissioner Murray Bonito,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Der,
Yes.
Commissioner Umason,
Yes.
Commissioner Chura,
Aye.
Commissioner Zayed,
Yes.
and I, Commissioner Adams, vote yes as well.
Okay,
And-
great job. And I have one more thing to say. The reason why we need the date for the December full commission is because the CDP training staff is gonna come and present on Miranda rights. Remember, we had a meeting a while back about questions about Miranda rights and how where those stand now. So that's why we need that date sooner than later, so that way we can invite them to that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for the update and for the work you all are doing to move that committee forward. Lastly, we have the Motion and Evaluations Committee update given by Commissioner Murray.
No report.
No report for that? All right. And with that said, we have made it through the committee reports. Is there any new business that anybody would like to bring?
To the chair. As you all know, my brother passed back in the 20th of October. And I want to just shout out the 4th District, particularly Sergeant Boyd and his team for the excellent work they did in first responding and then traffic control and making sure everybody was safe. And they came over to parking. And it was not because I was on the commission, they didn't know who I was. But they really took good care of our family on that evening. I just want to publicly shout out to the 4th District, the excellent work they did on that evening.
Shout out to the 4th District. And
I have one.
Commissioner Benito.
There is a question brought up in public comment today about the automatic license plate readers.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to note that, the commission did approve that
Yeah.
GPO in August of this year.
Um,
That's all.
yeah, talk about that as well. And I'm sure that, we are aware, we're aware of what's going on. I think Commissioner Van Lier is keeping track of these things as our policy chair. But it's always nice to hear from the public about what they're concerned about as well. And with that said, no more new business.
But I'll say this, it's also never okay to personally attack someone, especially someone that's working as hard as he is to move this policy work forward, so I'll say that.
Were you gonna do a second public comment?
Yes, we are. Yep. And so with that, we are at our second public comment. So, do we have anyone who's interested in public comment? We have Mr. C. Is there anyone else that's interested? Mr. Snyder?
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who would like to? Public comment?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Just a couple of things I want to observe. First, I want to thank each of you. I continue to be in awe at the work you do on behalf of the greater citizens of the greater Cleveland. So thank you so much. Continue to stay the course. Secondly, I noticed several times that you are referring to something you're calling the settlement agreement, having to do with a disciplinary action that has taken place, and they're calling it a settlement agreement. I caution you a little bit when you refer to settlement agreement, because as you know, the consent decree is referred to as the settlement agreement. And most people, when they see that, I think they're going to think consent decree as opposed to the individual situations that you are referring to. So I caution you to be aware of that. And if you can identify another language for that particular decision, I would suggest to you that you consider it to avoid conflict down the line. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great, thank you for your wisdom.
Point well taken. And we have Mr. Snyder.
I have two things to say. First, I'd like to piggy off of the elder. I do see the work that y'all are doing. I don't want to make it like I'm coming down here and finger pointing. I do see that y'all are working and getting things done. And I understand that this is something new, and salute to your efforts. With that being said, I think that you should revisit the interim for the executive director. I mean, just to maintain the flow of processes that is necessary to make this thing effective, what you're doing. Another thing, shout out to Jocelyn. I have been calling down here, and Jocelyn has been answering, responding in great energy, and I know that I see that she has a great responsibility, but she has been handling that, and I'll keep it succinct.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Is there anything else? If not, then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
15 minutes back.